أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد آل محمد وعجل فرجهم وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Assalamu alaykum ya Rasulullah. As you know, tonight we are gathered here to remember the best of creation. And tonight I want to dedicate this lecture to Rasulullah. We also have the martyrdom of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajhum, which other nights I will talk about. And at the end of the month of Safar we have for Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salam. So this will be a time period for us, the youth especially, to become acquainted with their Prophet. And as you know, Islam is spreading very fastly. And I say this, especially the youth that are being raised in this country, that alhamdulillah we have a religion that is very successful. And they're saying that in America, in about 2050, the amount of Muslims will have doubled. And that is meaning that things will change in this country when it comes to Islam. And that we are, as you look, every year we're gaining more voice when it comes to politics, when it comes to the media, when it comes to economy. We see more and more Muslims. And throughout the world we see that the number of Muslims are increasing, alhamdulillah. So tonight we want to analyze and study the life of the Holy Prophet of Islam and to see what did he do that his religion, and which is the religion of Allah obviously, became one of the most prominent religions in the world. And that his name, Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, ali Muhammad wa ajil farajhum, is one of the most popular names in the world. And when you mention, maybe many of the youth here, their name is Muhammad. Do we have any Muhammads here? One, mashallah. Anyone else? From the older, it's okay? You have another Muhammad? Let's give a salawat for all the Muhammads. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So whenever you mention this name when you go to school, you notice that they already know what religion you belong to. They already know much about you. So we want to analyze, and this is, according to some of our scholars, what were the key components to the success of Prophet Muhammad? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. See, dear brothers and sisters, our Prophet was in 13 years, was in a great, intense amount of pressure from his own family, from his own tribe. So much so that after he invited them to Islam, they became enemies with him. And if it wasn't for his uncle, Abu Talib, they would have tried to destroy Rasulullah. They would have tried to annihilate him, remove him. So therefore he wouldn't be successful. They put him in sanctions in Shi'ba Abi Talib, a time period where the Muslims were boycotted, and they even had to share a date, sometimes split a date to share. But what did the Rasulullah do when he goes into Medina? And he goes into a tribe or a group of people, tribes that actually wanted him and wanted him to come there. And what did he do in this 10 years? Which is a short, if you think about it, it's a very short amount of time. I myself, I'm helping out in different masjids. For example, my third year. And not much, say for example, has been, I can do a little bit, for example. But Rasulullah, you have to see Medina in that time period. What did he do in Medina in 10 years? Even though he was attacked in Badr and Uhud and Khandaq from Mecca, they kept not leaving him alone. What were the keys to his success that today we see what a dominant religion we have, what a religion we have that is throughout even other parts of the world, through America, through South, for example, America, Central America, through Europe, Asia, all parts it is spreading. So this is his success. And the question is, what can we do as a community to learn from him? That if we want to establish a Muslim community in the United States, what should the key components be? So we see that the first thing that I want to talk to you about is one of the key components of the civilization, society that he started. The first one is Iman, belief. His society was based on belief. This was the most important pillar. As you see in the Quran, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه والمؤمنون. The messenger of Allah believes in what has been brought down to him, and so do the believers. Quran first mentions Rasulullah believes. The first quality as a leader that Rasulullah had was that he believed in his message more than anybody else. He didn't have any doubt when it comes to the belief in Tawheed and Allah, when it comes to the belief that he was a messenger, when it comes to the belief of the hereafter. He believed the most. And he tried to instill this belief that he had started with him to the believers. I don't know here, have you seen in your family members and friends when somebody is a very deep believer in Islam? How does that affect you? When you have someone that you know, or you have for example, a Maulana like the Maulana that we have here at the center, when you see his belief, when you see how much he believes in what he's doing, it causes us to move more. So the first step in having an Islamic society is belief. Dear brother, dear sister, belief in Iman, is it something voluntary or something involuntary? Maybe you just think it's something involuntary. Most people, you think, oh, okay, someone's mu'min and someone's not mu'min. Allah said, you're mu'min, you're not mu'min, you're mu'min, you're not mu'min, and we have nothing to do with it. Is it like this, do you think? That we, first of all, that it is an involuntary? No. Belief is something that is voluntary. You choose to believe in something. Because belief has another condition in it, Iman, which is also you're considering the repercussions and the consequences of this belief. That's why somebody chooses to be Muslim and someone chooses not to be Muslim. Because they think about it and study this religion and they say, wait a minute, I know it's true. But if I believe in this religion, I'm going to have hijab, for example. My family won't allow that. I'm going to choose not to believe. Or for example, I really love pepperoni pizza. And if I become Muslim, I cannot have pepperoni pizza anymore, for example. Well, nobody told him there's halal pepperoni pizza. And he didn't know that, I'm assuming. So you see that people come to Rasulullah and they actually tell him this. They say, Christians, they say, why don't you remove two things from your religion and we will become Muslim? One was drinking alcohol, the other was pork. Because they were so addicted to this, and people look at the consequences of things, therefore they decide, will I believe or should I not believe? So inside Islam that you have is a choice. You're free to choose. And Iman is not only being attracted to that message, it is also understanding and being so strong that whatever other repercussions, whatever things it's going to cause me, you see a lot of converts, that sometimes they become Muslim, their family has nothing to do with them. That means that they have Iman, that choice they have to make was so sincere. I know a convert, she was actually mentioning this on TV, that she said that when I became Muslim, my mom, invited me to her house, and she cooked food, and I loved my mom's food. But the meat she used was not halal, it was not zabiha, Islamically slaughtered. And she was describing as a young girl, how hard was it to tell my mother that I cannot eat your food anymore, because the food that you're cooking is not zabiha, and that meat. So remember, Iman is mixed with consequences. So therefore, the most Iman, and I ask you this question, were there consequences for those that chose to be Muslim during the Prophet's time? People were tortured. People were killed. There were threats. Even to Rasulullah there were threats. And even we have later on, maybe we'll talk about it the other night, that when he was going to choose to be a prophet, Allah informed him in the hadith that this will happen to your family, that you will be starved, you will be in pressure, but also your family, this is what the amount of oppression that your family will face, yet he still chose to be a messenger of Allah. So therefore you see that the first step in the society of Rasulullah was it was a mu'min society. His entire focus was not on money, was not on, for example, gaining land. It was for people to become believers. And we will relate this at the end of the speech, that we also, when we have a center, as Muslims, our main focus should always be Iman, should be Islam. Even if sometimes it goes against, our financial situation. Even if sometimes we might be bothered a little bit by it. But the main focus should be Islam. The second thing that led to Rasulullah, his great success, is justice, adl. And you see that the justice that Rasulullah had, the racism that he put aside, the different tabaqat when it came to economy of rich and poor, all of these things when he went to Medina, he put all of these things aside for the people. Anybody here know which home did the Prophet go to when he went to Medina? When he first went, people were very happy. And they wanted Rasulullah to come to their house. And they invited him. They would stand outside and say, my house is yours, my wealth is yours, come. It was going to be something very important, maybe for Aus, maybe for Khazraj, maybe for other groups that were with them. And the Prophet would mention in the books of history or in hadith, إِنَّهَا مَأْمُورَةٌ, that this camel, wherever it goes, that's where I'm going to stay. Wherever this camel lands, it is the will of Allah. I'm sure you know the story. Where did the Prophet of Islam stay? Abu Ayyub Ansari's house. The poorest person in Medina, the poorest person, he went and stayed in his home. If you look at politicians today, they're always looking for the wealthy families. Even today, modern times, I'm not going to mention names, that there are politicians that are connected to rich families. And these rich families are giving him economic support. Would it have been wiser if Rasulullah went to the richest of Medina, the most powerful, and stayed at his house, and he would tell them, for example, what's going on, or for example, he would tell them, support him the most? But you see, his camel stopped at the poorest place. Person's home. Why? Because of justice. This is one of the reasons why it's 1400 years from the passing of Rasulullah, we still remember him. Because for him, rich and poor did not have any difference. Inna akramakum indallah atqakum. Those that have the most kirama and honor in the eyes of Allah are those that have the most piety. Let me give you another example of the justice of Rasulullah. Anybody here know who was the mu'adhin who did the adhan from the Prophet's time? Bilal. Does anybody know that Bilal cannot do the adhan right? What would he say wrong? Sin. Instead of saying sheen, he would say sin. He would say, instead of saying ashhadu, you say ashadu. Now imagine people, and your mu'adhin is the person that's going to call everyone to Islam. He's almost in a way the face of Islam. And the Arabs of Quraysh wanted themselves to become the mu'adhin. And to put, for example, a prominent figure, one of the prominent people at that time, instead he chose Bilal. And he wouldn't even pronounce sheen right. But the justice of Rasulullah, to give Bilal a chance, and the fact that he loved his adhan, and he would mention that his seen is a sheen for me. Our teacher, Ayatollah Mushtahidi, that we studied with in the Hawza Akhlaq teacher, he would say, when he would say the story, he would say, make dua that Allah sees our seen and makes it into sheen. That Allah takes our insufficiencies, because if you really think of it, this salat we do, fasting we do, everything we do, is it completely correct? Is it even if it's completely correct, is it really accepted by Allah? Imagine if I do it exactly how Ayatollah al-Uzma or whoever marja I follow says exactly like that. Word for word I do salat exactly how he said. How do I know if it's accepted? Is there any guarantee that this salat is accepted? I don't know. So it says, make dua that your seen becomes sheen. So the second thing that we talked about today is the fact that Rasulullah had justice, had adl. And this caused success. And we'll talk about how to apply this in our lives. The third thing that was very important for his success was knowledge, was inviting people to knowledge, was the message itself. The message of Islam is a message of knowledge. The message of Islam is a logical message. If it didn't make sense, if it contradicted the aql, as religions today do, very easily, when you look at religions in the world today, it's not logical. And when it's not logical, they tell you, don't think about it. Just believe. Don't think about it. But yes, we have a religion that many people, it's very interesting. When we have youth that come to our center sometimes, they're from other religions. I don't want to put other religions down, but he says it's amazing when we come to your gatherings as Muslims, that you guys always ask, do you have questions? Do you have questions? Let me answer your questions. They actually tell us in a way that you shouldn't ask so much. Don't ask, just believe. It's not, in a way that if you have a question, you should be able to answer it, for example, in front of everyone. So we see that the Quran mentions, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرًا. Say, this is my way. I invite to Allah with insight on evidence clear as the seeing with one eyes, with basira. The message of Rasulullah was very clear, was with basira, was with wisdom, you can say, was with, in a way that it made sense. I don't know if you've heard that one of the French researchers by the name of Maurice Bucaille, he has a book, maybe people have read it, it's an old book, about talking about the Bible, the Quran, and science. He comes to science, and he studies science, and then he studies Islam. And some people, in other religions, you always have this conflict between science and religion, between some of the scientific theories and religion. He states that he argues the Quran is in agreement with scientific facts. He says that Islam, science, and religion have always been twin sisters. So one of the factors that led and today is allowing for the spread of Islam is Islam being logical. Islam being with science. Islam not having a discovery, for example, that is against religion. The fourth is ethics. How did Rasulullah behave? I'm sure tonight many of you, if I had to ask you, do you know a story of ethics, of ethical behavior of Rasulullah? You raise your hand. He came here to complete makarim al-akhlaq for us, the highest amount of ethics. Ethics is the science of the spiritual vices and spiritual virtues. That in ethics you're trying to remove those negative spiritual traits inside you, for example, laziness, for example, arrogance, for example, materialism. You're trying to remove these when in ethics, the science of ethics. And instead you're trying to promote good qualities, courage, generosity, kindness. I want to mention some of the humbleness of Rasulullah. When it comes to humbleness, in Makarim al-Akhlaq we has, أتى النبي رجل يكلمه فأرعد. A person came to Rasulullah, and I want you to imagine that how would you face the Messenger of Allah? He came to him and he was shaking. Possibly this was in Medina when the Prophet had power, and he's obviously a statesman. And this person was shaking. He came to see him. And then it mentions here, يكلمه فأرعد فقال هون عليك فلست بملك. Why don't you be easy? Take it easy. I'm not a king. He would shake because when they'd go to the Byzantines, they would go to the Persians. Those emperors would scare people, would frighten people. But here it's mentioned, for example, that I'm not a king. إنما أنا ابن امرأة كانت نأكل القوت. Or we see, for example, in Hayatul Qulub of Allama Majlisi, that Rasulullah had 5 habits that he always continued from his humbleness. One was eating while sitting, on the ground with servants. 2, riding on a pony without a saddle. To milk a goat with his own hands. To wear coarse woolen cloth. And to greet children. Many times we expect children, you should say salam. He would come and say salam to the children. Sign of humility. These things that he would do, eat with servants, for example. He would milk his own animals. Maybe if he's the ruler or statesman of the time, somebody else to go do it for him. Or, for example, to wear coarse woolen cloth. These things people look at and they say that, well, this person is genuine. This person is a true messenger. Because he didn't come here to seek power. He's not arrogant to take advantage of us. He's not looking for our money, for example. He's just coming to do tarbiyat of us. He's coming to take us to the highest of positions, how he did. Is anybody here, maybe with a show of hands, know what is on the sword, the sheath of the sword of Rasulullah? Maybe here you've heard, or maybe in school, that they say that Islam has been spread by the sword, which is absolutely false. If it was the sword of Ali ibn Abi Talib, this sword was the sword of defense. It was still the sword of compassion after giving people many chances. What was on the sheath of the sword? Sword has a sheath, and that sheath goes inside. What was in the sheath, written on the sheath of the sword of Rasulullah? Can anybody tell me? The tradition has this, 3 things. It says, وجد في ذؤابة سيف رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صحيفة فيها. 3 things. صل من قطعك. Go and approach a person that has severed ties with you. On the sheath of the sword of Rasulullah, there are akhlaqi statements of ethics. Go back. Has anybody here how hard it is when someone tells you, I have nothing to do with you? And sometimes you know it is not your fault at all. How humble must you be to come to that person and say Assalamu alaikum to them again? And say, we have issues, we have problems. Let's fix it. Or you don't even mention, you come, you go back to them. You give them a call. You meet with them again. They have nothing to do with you. That's how insan is. Insan, I was taking, this summer had a meeting with some of the ulama and scholars in Rome, and one of our teachers was saying that insan is insan. Mankind is full of weakness. Mankind, not everyone is Ayatollah al-Uzma Bahjat, for example. Everyone has weakness. There might be akhlaqi vices, jealousy. There might be materialism. There might be greed. There are different things. Insan is insan. He makes a mistake. And they do something to you. They embarrass you in front of others. They spread rumors about you. They say, for example, this Syed that comes and gives speeches, he does this and that, for example. They make messes. They say things about you. How much courage does it have to come to that person and make things okay again? That's on the sword, on the sheath of the sword of Rasulullah. To come back. When a person has nothing to do with you, you come back to them. 2, فَأَعْطِ مَنْ حَرَمَكَ. How hard is this? Maybe these things are on the sword because it's jihad and nafs. It's so hard on the soul. The person that has deprived you, the person that hasn't given to you, that you go and you give to them. For example, you invite everyone, even your cousins, even your aunts, everyone came to this gathering, but you were not invited. And they had nothing to do with you. But now it comes your turn to give. And you say, well, I can invite them too, because they didn't invite me. They invited all my cousins, they invited me, all my friends. But actually you choose to invite them. You say, let me invite them as well. Let me attach, let me give. Imam Ali alayhi salam, the same way when you look at the battle of Siffin, when Muawiyah prohibited water, when Imam Ali alayhi salam had water, he didn't prohibit it. These are clear examples of that when something is prohibited, they stop you from having, but you should not be in the same way. You should be the better person. And this was written on the sword of Rasulullah. And the last is, قُولِ الْحَقِّ. Say the truth. وَلَوْ عَلَى نَفْسِكَ. Speak the truth no matter what. Even if it is against you. How hard is that? And sometimes you really don't know what to say. They ask you directly, did you go here? Did you bring that friend that I told you not to hang out with? Or something that you weren't supposed to do. And it's going to be against you. But you know you're a Muslim. You know you have to tell the truth. You know that Rasulullah was Sadiq al-Amin, was the truth teller. So you say, okay, an-najata fi as-sidq. Salvation is in the truth. Let me tell him. Imagine, dear brothers and sisters, that you're listening to this. Imagine all the Muslims did these 3 things. Imagine in America, they said if you want to know if a person is a Muslim or not, you see they never ever lie. They always tell the truth. Imagine how fast Islam would spread. Imagine that the Muslims were known that if you harm them, you hurt them, you deprive them, but when they get power, that they will not seek revenge, that they will give, they will forgive. They're kind. Imagine that if you sever ties with them, they will come back to you. The akhlaq of Rasulullah was one of the key components to his success. The world had not seen someone with such ethical behavior. So it became an aswatun hasana for us. It became a good sign, a perfect behavioral paradigm for us. The 4th thing that Rasulullah brought, so actually ethics was the 4th, knowledge, adl, iman. The 5th thing that Rasulullah brought, and that he caused them his success. And I wish, and I'm sure successful people, those that want to become successful, to study this. The fifth is he brought honor and power, izzah. Izzah in reality comes from the Arabic word might. To be mighty, to be honorable means to be mighty, to be powerful. Abu Sufyan, it is the 8th year of Hijrah. The Prophet of Islam, Prophet of Allah, takes control of Mecca again. He forgives the Meccans. He has an army, say about 10,000. And today is the day of marhama, today is the day of mercy. And he forgives them. People become the tulaqa, he frees them. Abu Sufyan now comes and sees Rasulullah. Abu Sufyan mentions that he saw the leaders of the world. Trader, famous trader, very wealthy. He saw different leaders throughout the world. He sees Rasulullah doing wudu. And while he's doing wudu, there's droplets coming. And he sees the way people are trying to take the drops after 8 years in Medina. Trying to take the drops from the ablution and wudu of Rasulullah, trying to get barakah from it. And he says himself that I have not seen anyone as mighty, as honorable as him. I've seen many leaders, but I haven't seen this honor that when he does wudu, that his companions, his followers, choose and get the water from it. What did he do with the hearts of the people? When you look at verses of the Quran about honor, وَمَنْ يُهْنِ اللَّهِ فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ مُكْرِمٍ. And when he whom Allah humiliates, for him there is no bestower of honor. Allah gives us honor. Allah gave Rasulullah honor. Allah gave the Muslims honor. Battle after battle after battle, there was victory. In the hands of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And gave Ali alayhi salam victory, gave Imam Hassan alayhi salam victory and honor. So therefore you see that honor and izzah is from Allah. And Rasulullah works sincerely for the people and Allah gave him honor. And when you look at a Muslim, you always say that Muslims are honorable people, are dignified people. The purpose of this hijab, you can argue. The purpose of the hijab is kirama. Some say it is only iffa, it is only for chastity. Maybe you can say this, that it is higher. Not only is the philosophy of covering yourself just so men do not look, that's something else. The real reason that hijab became wajib, we could argue, and some of our teachers in Qawm, knowledgeable, say it is for the karama of a lady, for the honor of a lady. Slave women in Islam, they don't wear hijab. It's not wajib for someone that is a slave to wear hijab. That is why they use this as an instance to say, no, hijab isn't only to separate society from looking. It was actually the sign of a believing woman that she had hijab. And therefore she prays with hijab. But a slave that didn't have, for example, at that time, didn't have the honor of a believing lady, didn't have hijab. And it's not wajib. And there's even arguments, can a slave have hijab or not? So for hijab is for believing women. Therefore it's a sign of karama. And the way that Islam teaches us to talk to one another, to talk to our parents, respect each other. It is all izzah and honor. When people look come across Muslim families, pious families, they say how much honor and dignity do they have, how respectful they are to one another. When it comes to our businesses and our social interactions with people, when we don't lie, when we don't rip them off, when we are working and we know that Allah is our Razak, how much honorable is that? Than a greedy, selfish person that wants to just sell something, that just wants business to happen at no cost whatsoever. Islam is the religion of honor. And if I had time tonight, I would talk to you about that our religion causes us to be the most honorable of people. And this is from Ziyad Ashura actually. فَأَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَكْرَمَ مَقَامَكَ وَأَكْرَمَنِي بِكَ. That I ask Allah who has honored you, Imam Hussein, you have been honored. 20 million people have honored your grave. No other grave. Are there 20 million people yearly visiting? No other congregation. Allah has given honor to Imam Hussein because Imam Hussein gave everything for Allah. And in the ziyarah it says, you gave me honor through Imam Hussein. Now that I'm Husseini, then I also have honor because Imam Hussein has honor and I'm a follower of Imam Hussein. The last thing that will be ending, and I want to relate these things, is advancement. Rasulullah advanced. Not 1 minute did he waste time in these 10 years. Did he ever waste time? No. He was always working, striving. His sleep was a lesson. Being awake was a lesson. His battles were a lesson. Every part about him, he was worried and he was spreading the message of Islam and was doing tarbiyat of people. He worked hard. As you see in the Quran, it says, for example, actually this verse, I won't say it because we're running out of time. I'll mention to you a story. Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, our 6th Imam, our 7th Imam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I believe it's Ibn Abi Hamza comes to him and sees that he's working very hard on the field. So much so that he's sweating, possibly a hot summer day. And this person says, why are you working? He's the Imam. And this is a question maybe we would have if we saw the Imam of the age and he's working. He said, why are you working? And he had servants. He said, let my servant work for you. Why are you working on the field? And then he said, well, maybe the Imam didn't want me to bring a servant for him. Let me help him myself. Let me help you. Why are you working? And the Imam mentions something very interesting. He says that higher than me, paraphrasing, higher than me are those that have worked in this world. And that was Rasulullah and Imam Ali alayhi salam. People that were much higher than me, they worked this way. They would work on the fields. They would work in a way that sweat would come. And we'll mention, the stories that one of the problems that we have in communities is that we are afraid of work. Or that if a person studies too hard, a person is so successful, we say he's dunya, he loves the dunya. Well, if a person has the right intention and says that I want to give, through hard work, give izzah and give honor to the Muslims, and I want to support my family, this is nothing but akhirah. Actually, that person that sleeps in, that person that doesn't go to work on time, that is dunya, that's nafs. That person that's there 5 a.m. for Allah to get Allah's rizq, that's actually akhirah. So Rasulullah worked hard. And that is why that message he wrote to all the rulers around him, 20-something letters, it proves that his message was international so that everyone could realize what Islam is about. Now, these 6 things, I'm going to, the whole point of a speech, a lecture, is how to implement something and not to be only theoretical. The first thing, my dear friends, he said faith and iman was the pillar of the society of Rasulullah. How can we instill faith in ourselves, in our family, in ourselves, with our friends, in this center? We have to think of a solution. If I say believe more, can you just automatically believe? There's 2 key components that I want you to think about. One is the more knowledge you have, the more you will believe. The more you know what haqq is, the more you believe. The more you study and you see other religions, for example, what they say and what Islam says, you compare nur to dhulamat, nur to darkness, and you say, wow, this is a beautiful religion. 2, the more you practice, because iman rests in the heart. And if our heart is full of sin, if my heart is away, I don't pay khums, can I truly attach myself to the imam of the age when I, for example, don't pay khums? I never paid khums in my life. Can I truly connect to Allah if my salat is qada all the time? If I don't pray salat when I'm supposed to? Can I truly reach Allah when I am cruel and mean and I have, and I talk disrespectfully in my family, to my family? So iman is from action. The better you act, the more good you do, the more you will believe. And God forbid, the more haram we do, the less we will believe, the less the heart will be opened up for guidance. Because Iman has multiple stages, and so does guidance. And if you're going to be guided to the next level of Iman, you have to do what was right in your level. I'm not going to mention this too much because we have other things to say. So the first thing is, Iman is instilled if we want to bring a Islamic society like Rasulullah had. It has to be one full of Iman. It has to be one that is away from haram. One that I fulfill all my wajibat. 2, justice. Rasulullah was fair to everyone. If we want to implement Islam in our culture, in our community today, we have to realize that I cannot only prefer a certain race, a certain city over others. That I only hang out, I'm only friends, for example, with people from my own country. I have to realize that justice means that I find friends from other nationalities. That our centers are not community centers that serve only culture. Culture is good, but they're truly Islamic centers. And that where we invite everyone, from all different cultures. And the relationships we have are people with different cultures, but the person I choose to be my friend is the person that has the most amount of taqwa. To be just. 3, knowledge. If I want to see the key components of Rasulullah's success was with knowledge. He taught people. 2 groups of people were there. One group was worshipping in the masjid, they say. Another group was studying. Islamic studies. They asked Rasulullah, which one of these is better? The one that is doing salat, worshipping, doing dua, or the one that is studying, they're learning things? Which one would you choose? Maybe you choose salat, maybe you choose worship. But in the story, in the hadith, has Rasulullah chose those that were studying, those that were seeking knowledge, and saying that I have been sent for them. Those that seek knowledge. How much do our children know about Islam? How much do our children, alhamdulillah, we have opportunity of right here in Kissa Kids. We have Steps to Perfection, a very good book. From kindergarten to 1st grade, 2nd grade, all the way up. And it also has Quranic studies as well. We go, I think here we have a Sunday school, right? We teach this to our Sunday schools. Parents sometimes teach their kids these books so that when you ask them a few questions about their deen, the very basics, they know. So seeking and teaching Islamic knowledge to children, learning it ourselves, spending time with them to teach. That's the education part. The 4th is ethics. The more ethical we are in home, the more ethical we are with one another, the more ethical we are when it comes to others, the stronger and more successful Islam will be. When they see a Muslim, they say this person is ethical, for example. And the 5th, honor. Honor comes from power. Honor comes from a good education. Honor comes from being successful. If we as Muslims always want to be oppressed, if we always need help from others, then they're going to look at Muslims as being weak people. But we are taught from Rasulullah, we are taught from the Imams, that you also should be the best at what you do. Is having lots of income haram? Imam Ali alayhi salam had so much income that he never got income when he became the Khalifa. Imam Ali built so many wells with such good quality that today these wells still exist and are called Bi'r Ali. Water comes from Bi'r Ali, the wells that Imam Ali alayhi salam built. But what Imam Ali alayhi salam limited was spending, not on seeking income. Because income brings power. Economy, having a society that is affluent, having a society that is successful, brings power for the Muslim. And therefore you can support Muslims throughout the entire world. Teaching our kids that if you want the Imam of the age to return, the Imam of the age needs power. And power comes from wealth. Power comes from knowledge. And the last is mentioned hard work. And this relates to what we said today, that not to waste our time, that we have a very particular difficult test in front of us, and that is to bring back the Imam of the age. And without working hard as a center, as a community, day and night, I know that there are many volunteers here, and sometimes they get overwhelmed. But when you work for the masjid, you work for the center for Islam, that is what will cause success. If you don't work, there are so many different fields, so many different things. For example, right now I put this phone myself, and people are wondering why is he recording himself. Because I see there's an opportunity in social media that didn't exist before. Because back then we were not allowed to say and teach the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And now we are allowed. So instead of allowing corrupt ideas to enter the hearts of our children and to become, a person that is influenced by social media, why don't we change social media in a way where we influence the world for the positive through it? Why is it in a way that technology should work against us? We should use technology to spread the message of Ahlul Bayt, but it takes hard work. It takes people, especially I expect, we're basically in the Silicon Valley, to have the best videos, to have the best presentations, to have the best, impact in social media from here throughout the entire world. And believe me, the entire world is watching us as Muslims here. If something comes from here, the entire world will follow. But yet we don't take advantage of this. So hopefully that we learn from the key components of Rasulullah's success in Medina, these 6 points, and I'll say them again, and we'll start the musibah, that Rasulullah was successful, we can say, by 6 aspects, at least 6. 1, he instilled faith. 2, justice. 3, knowledge. 4, ethics. 5, honor. And 6, it was hard work. Let's take ourselves to Medina and dim the lights. We have a tradition that Ma udiya Nabi mithla ma udit. No prophet was bothered as much as I was bothered. How was Rasulullah bothered? It was the harassment in Mecca. It was the harassment in Medina. But as you followers of Ahlul Bayt know, that things changed very fast for Ahlul Bayt after Rasulullah passed away. It is the last hours of the final messenger of Allah leaving this world. Imam Ali alayhi salam in the books comes to Rasulullah. Rasulullah died on the lap of Imam Ali. There he whispers, he teaches Imam Ali something. And there Imam Ali mentions later that he taught me 1,000 parts of knowledge, gates of knowledge, and each door of knowledge opened up, another 1,000 was there. Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam comes now to Rasulullah. Her father is passing away. He says something to her that makes her very sad. Again, he says something else to her that makes her smile. They ask her later on, what happened? Why did you cry and then smile? And Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayhi salam mentions that Rasulullah told me that soon I'll be leaving this world, but mentioned that you will be the first to rejoin me. So it is the last hours of the life of the Prophet. It has become the time of farewell. With the demise of the Prophet, Imam Ali alayhi salam will be left all alone in his house. The power-hungry people, they're fighting over successorship, while Imam Ali alayhi salam is performing the bath for Rasulullah. Imagine you're in Medina. Sayyidah Fatima falls on the chest of her father, crying. Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam is in a time period that even in Sunni sources had mentioned. When she would enter, Rasulullah would stand up and give his own place for her. When she would enter, Rasulullah would kiss her, would honor her. But after he passes away, in this hadith that I'm going to share with you mentions, that Rasulullah foretells all of this. He knew what was going to happen to his daughter. He knew what was going to happen to Imam Ali alayhi salam. The tradition says this, says, كَأَنِّي بِهَا. Rasulullah once was looking at Sayyidah Fatima, was looking at Ahlul Bayt, and says that, as if I am with her, he begins to cry. He says, as if I am with her, كَأَنِّي بِهَا وَقَدْ دَخَلَ الظُّلَّ فِي بَيْتِهَا. As if I am with her when disgrace, lowliness enters her house. When تُهِكَتْ حُرْمَتُهَا وَغُصِبَتْ حَقُّهَا. As if I am with her when her sanctity is degraded, when her rights are usurped. And she says that this fadak belonged to me. And they told her the prophets do not give inheritance. وَمُنِعَتْ إِرْثُهَا. As if she needs a witness. It is Fatimatu Zahra. She does not need a witness for fadak. And the tradition has her inheritance is prohibited. Again, this is the speech of Rasulullah in this hadith. As if I am with her, I see all of this happening after me. وَمُنِعَتْ إِرْثُهَا وَكُسِرَ جَنْبُهَا. And her side is broken. وَأُسْقِطَتْ جَنِينُهَا. And her unborn child is aborted and miscarried. As if I am with her when her muhsan becomes aborted. How many Saadat do we have tonight here from Imam Hassan? How many Saadat do we have from Imam Hussein? How many Saadat would we have from Muhsin if they did not open the door? And this is the part that breaks our heart. Rasulullah in hadith is saying, as if I am with her, I see all of these things. I'm looking at my daughter Fatima, and this is what was causing me to cry. وَهِيَ تُنَادِي. And she is crying, Ya Muhammad. She is calling my name. She is saying, Ya Muhammad. They set fire to her house as if I am there. They're putting her between the door and the nail, the door and the wall. And she's saying, Ya Muhammad, فَلَا تُجَابْ. But nobody answers. O people of Medina, 10 years Rasulullah was with you. And when her daughter needs help, when her daughter gives the speech of Fadakiyah, none of you stand up to help her. فَلَا تُجَابْ وَتَسْتَغِيثُ فَلَا تُغَاث. She seeks help, but nobody is there to help her. فَتَكُونُ أَوَّلُ مَنْ يَلْحَقُنِي مِنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي. So she will be the first person from my family to meet me. فَتَقَدَّمَ عَلَيَّ. And then when she comes to me in the other world, the way she comes, فَتَقَدَّمَ عَلَيَّ. Fatima, come to me. But she comes عَلَيَّ مَحْزُونَ. She is in the state of grief. Makruba Fatima to Zahra is in the stage of sorrow. She cried day and night after Rasulullah passed away that they built another house. They had her cry in another house, and that house was called Baytul Ahsan. Maghmuma, maghsuba, maghtula. She comes to me distressed, usurped, and murdered. Inna lillah, inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, we ask, because of the rahla of Rasulullah tonight, because of the honor of Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima, grant everyone here their hawa'ij, inshallah. Everyone here is the guest of Rasulullah, and he is the most generous. Inshallah, may all of your difficulties, all of the strife that you have, all your ham and gham be removed, inshallah, by the walayat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you, we said that we're looking for knowledge. Give us knowledge. Give us ethics. Give us, inshallah, justice. Allow us to be just people. And allow us to work hard for your deen, inshallah. Cure the sick. Forgive those that have passed away. Reward those that have sponsored tonight's program. And make us of the companions of the Imam of the age. Make him satisfied with us. Make our family and our dhurriya and progeny lovers of Imam Mahdi. And bring back the Imam of the age with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal farajahum.
I was saying.
Ma'atam al-Hussein.
I was saying.